In the early 18th century, everybody was hunting for get-rich-quick gold through annexing other countries, the empire.com bubble, if you like. And one in Scotland pushed on the Act of Union, one of the most important acts in British history. When James I came to the throne after the death of Elizabeth I, Scotland and England were ostensibly united. In fact, the constitutional structure was one of two separate crowns, which happened to be on one head. There were attempts at union in 1606, 1667, 1689, but there was little Scottish interest in union until the collapse of the Darien Scheme. So the Darien Scheme, the Company of Scotland wished to establish a colony in Panama on the Gulf of Darien, and nearly all the moneyed families in Scotland invested in a scheme. It seemed like a brilliant way of making money, the Scottish Empire. After a siege by Spanish forces in 1700, the Scots were forced to abandon the colony, and with it went about 20% of all the money in Scotland. It was a complete financial disaster. Public opinion in Scotland changed very quickly. Union with England could give financial compensation, access to those English trade routes, the Empire trade routes, and a halt to the Scottish currency crash, because there would be a pegging of the Scots shilling to the English penny. When Queen Anne came to the throne in 1702, she wished for greater union with Scotland. By 1704, Anne had no heirs, and Parliament decreed the heir was the Sophia of Hanover, the granddaughter of James I, but had not consulted Scotland on the matter. In retaliation, the Scots passed the Act of Security in 1704, allowing their Parliament to select a different successor to Anne, unless they got access to the English trade routes, those precious things. In the following year, England passed the Alien Act, which provided that Scots in England would be treated as aliens, and it also limited trade between the countries, although they said if Scotland agreed to negotiate over union, the act would be suspended. The Scots had no choice but to negotiate. They were somewhat forced into a corner. England wished the Scots to agree that Anne's successor would also take the Scottish throne, and Scotland desired access to the trade routes and to the markets. They agreed at the end of July 1706. First, the Union with Scotland Act in 1706 passed by the Parliament of England, and then the Union of England Act was passed in 1707 by the Parliament of Scotland. Scots peers would sit in the English House of Lords. The Scots Church would remain the national church, and Scots law would remain. The Acts were wildly unpopular in Scotland. There were widespread riots, but commerce did increase across both England and Scotland, and those on both sides of the border were delighted to live in peace after years of threats. We might be able to draw parallels with the modern day. Provisions for legal and religious independence with unity of overall rule provided a model of future integration of nations in unions. So, the Union has worked effectively for over 300 years. But what will happen in the future? Watch this space.
On here is absolutely true, yeah? So what the English Common Law Constitution gave England, and this is important for you to know, for anything to do with petitioning, which they call demonstrations, we call them petitions. What the English Common Law Constitution gave England to the USA, the British Parliament then took those rights away from England. All contrary to English Constitution Common Law, right? So these are all the rights that the English Constitution gave us. The right of the realm of England and its subjects to defend themselves, removed by the British. The right to a jury, mainly removed by the British. The right to remain silent. You haven't got a right to remain silent anymore, removed by the British. The right of habeas corpus, removed by the British. That's where we've now got the European arrest warrant. They can come and take you and put you in Germany tomorrow. You've got no say in it.
I know that's what they did to one of the veterans
Yeah.
that got me in and out of Trafalgar Square. That's what they did to him. They waited till he went abroad,
Yeah.
and then they arrested him and moved him around different prisons for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. That's called the merry-go-round. You've got the right to bring up and protect your own children. That has now been removed by the British.
No, you don't own your children. Don't own your children anymore in the UK. You have parental responsibility only till they're 18. They can take them off you at any time.
Yeah.
And in fact, Public Health Control of Infectious Diseases Act 1984, along with the Safeguarding Act, that's exactly what's being planned. They're coming for your kids.
Yeah.
That's why they're advertising for social workers.
Right.
So yeah, get up off your knees, folks.
Yep, exactly that. The right to govern ourselves in counties, districts and parishes, which is what I said earlier, again removed by the British. The right of property freehold, removed by the British. The right to assert English ancient rights and liberties, again removed by the British, given to us by the English. The pretended power of suspending laws. So what they're doing at the moment with COVID is that they're pretending that they have the power to do all these things to us, and they haven't.
Did you say COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I keep saying COVID-19, coronavirus, or SARS-CoV. They're three different things. COVID-19, certificate of vaccination 2019. Coronavirus, we've all got it. SARS-CoV, did that get made in a lab?
How about Kung Flu?
Kung Flu. Yeah. How about it's all a lie?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the lying virus. So all of these rights are there and all been removed by the British. The European Defence Union is unconstitutional with regards to the English common law constitution, which it is. The surrender of our armed forces, command and control to the EU, the potential conscription of future generations of the English into an EU defence union against their will, the English military covenant, which has been reneged on by the British, and what do they fear the most? Their removal of via the English unity. Time to fight for England, and then it goes in, and I actually mentioned most of the things here. European Defence Union, mass immigration by the British tyranny, crooked banking system, 5G, paedophilia, Islam jihad, rape of the English boys and women all over the country, and the lying virus response. So again, it goes into more details there, but I'll talk about the difference between Scotland and England because Scotland has a different legal system.